Hello friends, and welcome to Ariel's Twilight Years, how to be a really old model. I feel as though Riley has just reacted to my voice by thinking that I'm stressed.
No, he's fine.
Is he?
Yeah.
Just disturbed.
Yes.
I'm joined today by, oh my gosh, I thought they were my niece. They are not my niece, they are my nephew. This is the first time I've met my nephew, Eli. I get very confused because you've moved quite near to Ely.
It's true.
Eli. I'm a very sensitive aunt. I'm actually a very good aunt.
Okay, Josie.
I'm making this video trying to prove I'm a really good aunt. So the reason we're talking today is because we thought it'd be quite interesting to compare and contrast our experiences, because I had to come to terms with what I considered to be a terribly non-standard sexuality when I was a teenager in the 90s. And you have had to come to terms with both something you consider to be a non-standard sexuality and a non-standard gender identity. Also, I'm guessing this was happening during your teens. And how old are you now? 23?
23.
I know I should know. Very good aunt. And of course you've gone through all of this in the 21st century. So I wondered if we'd find lots of things in common or whether our experiences would be very diverse. So let us find out. I've written myself some questions. So the first thing I knew of this journey of yours was your sexuality. Tell me the story.
I was in like year 6, so like age 10.
Yeah.
When I sort of realised that perhaps my sexuality was not the norm. I don't think I ever thought I was straight. I never consciously thought that. But yes, I think I came out as bisexual to my close friends in year 7.
Okay.
When I was 11.
How would you characterise your sexuality now?
I call myself queer.
What do you mean by that?
So I consider myself attracted to people regardless of gender. So I'm attracted to men, women and non-binary people. Really just want to say I'm not straight, basically.
Fine.
I don't...
Yes. You're not like the default.
Yeah, queer is just like a nice umbrella term.
So when you were year 6 and year 7, did you feel, and I really hope the answer's no, but I don't know, did you feel any kind of sense of guilt? Or shame, I suppose? Because you obviously knew not to tell everyone.
Yes. I don't think I ever thought that was my problem, but
Good.
I was very aware that other people thought it was a problem, and so I did keep it to myself and was quite guarded with it.
So you were aware of homophobia, basically?
Yes.
Right. And so although I didn't know that people were horrible about BDSM when I was that young, and I didn't know what I was into was BDSM, by the time I was a teenager, just the sort of jokes I was hearing is enough to make you think this isn't something I'm going to share with everyone.
Gay was very present as an insult when I was young. Anything that was stupid was gay.
So as you look back, when was the first time you had the instinct that you might not be cisgender?
Well, I didn't know to call it that.
No,
I didn't know what it was. But I'd say when I was 6 or 7, when I think I got very upset and I told Mum that I didn't want to be a girl and that I was a boy and I wanted to be a boy when I grew up. And she assured me that I could have a surgery to become a boy. And then I forgot about it, basically.
Well done, her. Well done, her. So I think we have that very much in common, that I realised that what I wanted to do was BDSM. Not as a job, I didn't know that. And I didn't know it was called BDSM, but I thought I keep reading things in books that I don't think anyone does in real life that I want to do.
Yes.
And, oh no, what job can I do? Or what sort of life can I have where I'll get to do these things? And I thought the best thing I could be was an actor, because then I could act out some of these things. So I'm glad you were presented at that age with something that made you feel like, okay, well...
It wasn't the perfect response, but it did comfort me at the time. I thought I was a girl, because that's what I've been told.
Sure.
And of course now I know that I was a boy, just stuck in like a female body. At the time I was just like, I want to be a boy, but I am a girl. And that was confusing.
So what do you think would be a perfect response?
Perfect response would be allowing me to explore gender knowing what it is, because I didn't know what transgender was.
Right.
Mum simply told me that, and I don't blame my mum.
No, sure.
But
because none of us were educated in this.
Yeah.
No.
But she simply told me I could have a surgery.
Right.
To become a boy.
Got you.
And being a 6 or 7-year-old, I just thought, oh, okay, so when I get old enough, I magically can have a surgery and that will fix all of it.
Whereas actually, I guess you could have started doing something differently then that would have made you feel more comfortable.
And if I knew more about the transition process, I may have chosen to go on puberty blockers.
Right.
When I was a lot younger.
Yes.
Because I didn't think that being a boy was an option without the surgery.
Understood.
I knew I was a girl, but I wanted to be a boy, and I thought that was just my lot.
Yes, understood. And we were talking the other day, weren't we, about how all of the discourse I heard about transgenderness, being transgender, it was all about genital surgery. Like that's what the subject was. Like if it was brought up, that's what people would be talking about.
Genitals don't equate gender.
Once you kind of get over that, then everything just seems quite a lot easier and more fluid.
Yes.
So now you would describe yourself in terms of your gender identity, you would call yourself, I only just learned this, Transmasc.
That's it, yes.
Yeah! Can you explain what that is?
Transmasc is, I am non-binary, but I lean more towards the masculine male man, not mailman, male man side. So I'm still non-binary, I am still outside of the gender binary, but I'm a lot more man than woman.
I don't know if you'll ever have thought of this, but as you look back at kind of this emotional journey and real journey also, what has been the most beautiful moment of it where you have felt, now I'm feeling like who I want to be?
I think the first time I wore a binder, which for anyone who doesn't know is a like bra kind of thing that flattens your breast tissue to give you a more masculine frame. First time I wore a binder, it was just like, whoa, what is this feeling? And it's then that I was like, oh shit, I'm trans.
Okay. Was it just like a feeling of like everything's kind of right?
It was mostly a feeling of panic. It just looked so right. It didn't look like attractive, it looked like me. So,
right, yeah.
So when I see myself with breasts wearing a strappy top or whatever, it looks attractive because I like breasts. But when I remember it's me, it feels wrong and weird.
Right, got you.
And so just looking at myself in a binder was just like seeing myself for the first time.
I think with a lot of discussion of people coming to terms with their kinky identities or sexual identities or gender identities, one of the things that I think quite understandably we often fix on is all the negatives, all the difficulties, all the difficult things about it. And one thing that I tend not to really have people talking about so much in my experience is the bits where you just feel like, oh, thank God. Yeah. Like, I'm doing the right thing. And I know, at least with BDSM, people tend to assume it's all about getting turned on, oh, this will give you better orgasms, you'll have a sexier time. But actually, the most beautiful things for me were just the moments where I felt like, oh my God, I'm doing the right thing.
You're doing what your soul is wanting.
Yeah, like, this is the right thing.
Yeah.
This is how life's meant to feel. I'm glad to know that maybe there are some sort of things like that.
Talking more on that topic is more people know the term gender dysphoria than they know gender euphoria. And I think that perhaps euphoria is the only thing you need to be trans. You don't need to have gender dysphoria to be trans, you simply need euphoria, which is where you experience a great rush of happy chemicals and loveliness when you do something that is gender affirming. For example, for me, wearing men's clothing or being gendered correctly, being called sir, or wearing my binder, I do experience gender euphoria.
Did you make this up,
No.
this word? It's great, because I think in all the talking about pain and difficulty and suffering and suicide, the euphoria does tend to get lost, which is why I guess I've heard the words, many words about being trans, many words, and I've never heard that. What do you think will give you more gender euphoria?
Going through hormone therapy, testosterone, and all the side effects of that.
Yes, a bit scary, but quite exciting.
Terrifying, but yes, very exciting.
It seems to me that quite often, whether you're talking about kinkiness or sexuality or gender identity, the thing that comes up a lot is, oh, what did your family think? Were you afraid of that?
Yes. Coming out was very difficult for me. I knew my mum and dad would be supportive, but coming out was the official moment where I had to accept to myself that I was trans and I actually had to do something about it.
So it was actually like your own reaction, you were...
Yes, because coming out to my parents was like, this is official now, you're really doing it now.
more scary than coming out as queer?
I've never really been scared to come out as queer.
Oh, I'm glad to know that.
It was a bit scary the first time, but since then I have no problem with it.
Oh, I still feel a bit scared coming out as kinky.
Mm-hmm.
It still makes me feel a bit like people might be judging, so I'm glad that maybe this is a generational thing that, I mean, it might be a personal thing that you might be particularly shameless, in a good way, or it might be that your generation has just evolved a bit.
I think all my shame went to being trans is the problem.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't feel
Understood.
ashamed of being attracted to men or women or anybody, but
Right.
I do feel ashamed of being trans.
Oh, no. Do you think that's in part because societal acceptance has improved so much for being gay, and we're not there yet with being trans?
I think that's certainly part of it, but I also just think my personal life experience is that being gay was more acceptable. So maybe.
But I remember one of my friends came out as gay at sixth form, at my sixth form, when we were 17. And I remember it was a massive drama. It was a massive, horrible drama. And I hope it wouldn't be. He was just like, it was very normal. I mean, he was just a gay guy, that's all. And I like to think that it's better than that. So this is a self-involved question that's basically pretending to be to you, but is actually about me. I'm really good at those questions. Do you think in any way that having an aunt who was openly not very normal, do you think it was helpful in any way? It's fine if it wasn't. It won't be fine if it wasn't. It is fine if it wasn't.
I know. Well, I'm sure if I didn't have my friends who were trans or queer or anything like that, you would be a big influence. But
I'm not.
I had
Wow.
plenty of others. Yeah.
Oh, wow!
Sorry.
In the absence of anything else, you would kind of find comfort from what you could.
Yes.
Like me and BDSM, and I couldn't access BDSM, so I found sword fighting immensely hot. It's not very good as BDSM now.
No.
Because it's not very much like it, but at the time, it was my BDSM, and it was the most precious and wonderful thing in my life. So, no, I can totally see. I remember, like, a few years ago, we were talking and I said something about my sexual identity being non-standard, and you were like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, because I'm kinky. And I could see that because you were dealing with something completely different from that, that you just hadn't really made the connection that it was in, which is perfectly understandable, that it was in some way similar. Whereas I definitely see all of those journeys where you realise that what you are, who you are, is not like the standard issue. I see all those journeys as quite similar to each other, but there's no reason why you should, because thank goodness, because of the internet, you've been able to make contact with actual other people who are going through something very similar.
Yeah, the biggest influence on me realising I was trans was meeting other trans people.
Yeah, of course.
Like, that was that.
Do you feel like kinky people belong in LGBTQ, etc.?
If they're queer, yeah. If they're cis and straight, then I wouldn't say so.
It's only something I've become very recently aware of, that anyone would think that, and my internal jury is out, because it always seems to me that the things that no one ever has to know
Yes,
give
because
you less trouble in life.
the way you have sex is a lot less important than who you love.
Yeah.
So gay people aren't just, it's not just a different weird way of having sex.
No.
It's who you love, it's who you're attracted to.
Yes.
It's who you're going to spend your life with.
I am only attracted to dominants, but like you can't look at them and know that they're dominant. Not the good ones. I mean the mad ones. You can tell. Because they're wearing fucking monocles.
Call me master.
Oh god. Like with a walking cane. But the normal ones,
Kneel to me.
you can't see. They don't introduce themselves as Master Thunder, you know.
Okay.
Which I am.
Master Thunder.
I found one once. I'm Master Keith. I thought that's a rubbish name.
At least be master like Patrick or something
that would
sexy.
be alright.
Phoenix.
Yes, but absolutely. I could be married to a male dom and walk through my little Welsh town and no one would be like, oh my god,
No one
it's
would
a dom
have to
and a
know
sub.
ever.
Whereas, yeah, if I'd married a woman,
People would know.
yeah, so it sort of, so far at least, felt like, I'd feel a bit fraudulent putting myself under that banner. I feel like there are some people who are far more disadvantaged. I've just disadvantaged myself by doing it professionally. Like, if it wasn't for doing it professionally, no one would know unless I wanted to tell them.
The
Yes.
thing is, if someone who is kinky but straight and cis appeared in a queer space.
I like it.
I wouldn't throw them out. I wouldn't say you're not allowed to be here.
No.
I would welcome them.
Yes.
I do not consider them under the umbrella of queer.
No, I think that's reasonable. Do you think that your life would have been easier if you had had more education about this and come out as trans earlier?
Yes, very much so. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what it would be like in secondary school now. Obviously, neither of us are. I'm hoping they do teach about this in sex education, but they certainly weren't at primary school for you or for me.
No, certainly not. No.
We didn't have any discussion of
They didn't even
being
mention gay people.
No. I'm a bit horrified to hear that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I would have thought that by the time you were in school...
I think it's different now.
I really hope so, yeah.
I hope it's different.
Yeah, like 10 years on, I would definitely, desperately hope so.
Because I have a friend who came out as a trans man in secondary school near the end. So I hope that that's because he was educated about it by an official person.
Yes.
But I got all my knowledge from the internet.
The knowledge that you got, was it broadly speaking right? Was it useful?
Well, it's all over with the internet, isn't it?
There's terrible stuff probably, but you were able to access some stuff that was correct.
Well, it took me quite a long time for it to pop into my viewing. So it was basically just dumb luck that a trans YouTuber would appear in my recommended.
Right, okay.
And I'd watch it and think, oh goodness, that sounds like me.
I suppose it's like you had a kind of opposite problem. For me, there wasn't any information. I could have looked forever in the school library. I would have found nothing about BDSM, or being trans probably. Yeah. And for you, there was all the information, but...
Yeah, but I had no reason to look for it.
Right, got you.
If I had an inkling that I was trans, I would have looked for it perhaps, but I had no bloody idea.
You see, that is the strongest argument, I think, for education about this stuff, because I didn't know there was a thing called BDSM, so I just thought there was something terribly, terribly wrong with me, and that it might mean I was a psychopath, or it might mean that I sort of deserved to get raped and murdered because I was having these awful fantasies, or I might be like, what if this means I'm a paedophile? And like, just having known there was a thing called BDSM would have solved all of that. Like, I might not have felt comfortable with it still, but it would have solved all of that. What am I though?
If I had known the word trans when I was 7, I feel quite confident that I would have explored that and perhaps identified as trans when I was a child.
And potentially then just had a much, much easier like adolescence and...
Yeah. Because I came out as trans when I was 22.
Yes.
Which is only last year.
So that was a very long journey from being 6 or 7, first having these thoughts.
There's plenty of older people who come out as trans, but only realising it at about the age of 21. That's quite rare, and it does cause long-term damage the longer you go without realising it. Yeah, and you miss out on experiences that you might have really much preferred if you were in the correct gender. Yes. And I certainly think that about being kinky. I had some peace in my life, and some experiences I had would have been much less traumatic if I'd just known what I was. If I'd known that I was a man when I lost my virginity, I think it would have been a lot more enjoyable experience. Right. Early on when I was having sex for the first time, I was spending a lot of time trying very much to be a pretty girl and to present myself as all the things that I'm supposed to be. Yeah. Meanwhile, if I had known that I was a man, I maybe would have been more comfortable and had a better time. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It does feel like there are some similarities and there are some big differences between what we've gone through. But what we would both say is that openness and education available to everyone would have been very, very useful. Would have been really, really useful. And would have saved me from a lot of trauma and confusion. Yes, and I suppose one of the very big differences between the two of us is that you grew up with some access to porn. Yeah. And I grew up with no access to porn. Did porn form part of your education on this, and was it in any way useful? On being trans? Yeah. No, none whatsoever. I wasn't sure if there would be or not. I think it confused me more, mostly for my own issues in which I would watch it and I wouldn't know who to imagine myself as. Oh no. In the scenario, and I'd get confused. I'd imagine myself as a woman and be confused, and then I'd be the man and that would feel better, but then that was confusing. And I'd watch gay porn and be like, why am I watching gay porn? I watch gay porn. I mean, yeah, many straight women watch gay porn, but I was watching it and thinking, this feels special and important and I don't know why. Oh, bless you. Rather than just thinking this is hot. Yes, and I suppose, I've heard other people say it, but
that porn can't really take the place of education. Both these things are valuable, but porn isn't education.
Porn is certainly not education. No.
So I guess we just conclude that we should have education about the full diversity of gender and
Absolutely.
sexual identity, and then people like us, of whom there are clearly many, would maybe have a slightly easier time, and there would probably be fewer people saying awful,
I think
horrible,
so, yeah. If you're
prejudiced
taught in
things.
primary school that there is more than two genders, that becomes ingrained in your brain and it doesn't become as much as a problem. Whereas
Yes.
if you find out at the age of 30 that there's more than two genders, you become very
People
offended by this.
People do seem
No,
to.
there isn't. I've gone 30 years and there's only been two genders.
Yes.
Well, of course there hasn't, because trans
No.
people have been around forever. You just didn't know about them.
And they've been quite quiet quite often
Very
because
quiet.
they've been quite frightened. Yes. Thank you very much for joining me on Ariel's Twilight Years. Now, please tell me, am I a good auntie? I'm so needy.
Yes, Josie.
Thanks. I don't make my family call me my stage name.
No.
It's probably just as well. They wouldn't take it very seriously, I don't think. Thank you, as always, for joining. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. I always get back to everyone, unless you're wildly offensive and I just delete you, obviously. Do it all the time. Block. Because I've got, like, power issues.
You do. You have big power right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you, Eli, for joining me. Not Ely. No, not a cathedral. Nephew. Goodbye now. Goodbye.